Russia's Tu-160 provokes NATO in the Arctic. Then U.S. response was instant morning, January 25, 2026. From orbit, the Barents Sea looks serene, a vast sheet of steel-gray water, broken only by drifting ice floes and fractured ridges. But calm in the Arctic is a dangerous illusion. Beneath the surface, every sensor is alert. Satellites sweep overhead. Destroyers scan and listen. Nothing goes unnoticed. High over the polar horizon, two massive white shapes cut through the frozen sky, carving sharp contrails into contested airspace. These are Tu-160 strategic bombers, Russia's White Swans. Nearly 300 tons of supersonic power, variable sweep wings fully extended, NK-32 engines roaring with Mach 2 potential. They are not sneaking. They are not hiding. Transponders broadcast every signature, every movement, loud, deliberate, impossible to ignore. This is not a covert penetration. This is a statement, a warning. Moscow wants the world to see, to measure, and to reckon with their power. The timing is deliberate. Diplomatic channels are frozen. Ukraine negotiations are stalled. The Arctic is becoming the next great frontier of military positioning. And by sending two of its most iconic, nuclear-capable bombers toward NATO's northern flank, Russia is signaling that it still owns altitude, speed, and deterrence. But something fundamental has changed since the Cold War. The Barents Sea is no longer a sanctuary. It is a monitored aquarium. Every vibration from those NK-32 engines, every electronic pulse from legacy avionics, every flicker of radar energy, all of it is being absorbed into a sprawling, integrated Western sensor web that stretches from Norwegian radar sites to orbiting infrared satellites. As the Tu-160Hs approach the 70th parallel, they are broadcasting more than identification codes. They are feeding a digital ecosystem. Within minutes, two Norwegian F-35s are airborne, wheels up in under 6 minutes. But this is not the interception Moscow trained for decades ago. The F-35s do not light up their radars. They do not announce themselves with lock tones or aggressive maneuvers. They go silent. Their APG-81 radars remain in receive-only mode. No emissions, no search beams. Instead, they let the Russian bombers do the broadcasting. The Tu-160Hs, with transponders active and onboard systems humming, are effectively mapping themselves. 20 kilometers laterally offset from the Russian formation, the Norwegian fighters settle into a combat spread, invisible, listening, their sensors fusing data from space, sea, and shore. Inside the Tu-160 cockpits, everything appears routine. No warning tones, no radar locks, no intercept cues. To the Russian crews, the Arctic sky looks empty. They believe they are dictating tempo, probing NATO's response times, testing how quickly hangars open, how fast jets scramble, which frequencies crackle to life. From Moscow's perspective, this is a live-fire audit of NATO readiness. But NATO is not flinching. It is measuring. At 9-10 hours, the dynamic shifts. The Tu-160 crews cut their transponders. Civilian tracking apps go dark. To public eyes, the White Swans vanish. Then the engines surge. The NK-32s unleash over 100,000 pounds of thrust. Wings sweep back. The bombers accelerate. Mach 1.2, Mach 1.5, Mach 1.8, climbing hard, punching toward 52,000 feet. This is the supersonic flex. The message is clear. Speed is survival. At extreme altitude, and near twice the speed of sound, Russian commanders calculate that naval radars below will struggle to maintain consistent tracks. Arctic thermal layers, jagged ice formations, and radar clutter become part of the equation. Terrain and atmosphere are allies. Inside the bombers, confidence grows. They believe they have cut the tail. The F-35s, if they were there at all, should be far behind in their wake. But modern warfare is not a tail chase. High above the Earth, early warning satellites detect the thermal plumes of the accelerating bombers. Infrared signatures do not disappear when transponders switch off. Heat is physics, and physics cannot be jammed. Hundreds of miles away, Sinuan RC-135. Rivet joint aircraft is harvesting electronic emissions, every cockpit transmission, every radar whisper. The Tu-160s are not invisible. They are nodes on a network, and above them, unseen until now, 2 F-15EX Eagle II fighters are already positioned at 60,000 feet. They are not scrambling. They were there first. The F-15EX is not just a legacy airframe with new paint. It is a flying digital fortress. Its electronic warfare suite creates corridors of denial, localized pockets where hostile sensors degrade, distort, or miscalculate. From the Russian perspective, the sky remains empty. From the American perspective, geometry is everything. The Eagles dive from altitude, Mach 2.2 from the high perch, descending from above the sun's glare. Not head-on, not predictable, predatory geometry. The MiG-31 escorts flying with the Tu-160 begin to sense something is wrong. Frustration builds, then they escalate. Instead of routine scans, the MiG-31s engage sustained radar locks. High-energy fire control beams paint the American fighters. Inside the F-15EX cockpits, radar warning receivers flare alive with sharp tones. This is not casual scanning. This is deliberate illumination. In military aviation, sustained radar painting is a psychological weapon. It is the equivalent of placing a finger on a trigger without firing. The Arctic stratosphere tightens. If NATO locks back aggressively, escalation becomes kinetic. If it withdraws, Moscow claims dominance. This is brinkmanship at 60,000 feet. But while the MiG-31s focus upward, something else is happening below. Arleigh Burke-class destroyers patrol the Barents Sea. They do not activate high-power search modes. They do not reveal their precise positions. Instead, they exploit a multi-static radar concept. The Russian escorts are illuminating everything around them with their own radar energy. That energy reflects off the Tu-160s and disperses into the environment. The F-35s collect it passively. The destroyers integrate it. The Aegis system fuses it into a composite, high-definition track. Russia is providing the illumination for its own detection. At 9:25, a calm transmission breaks across the International Guard frequency. Russian aircraft, your tactical geometry is resolved. You are within the engagement envelope of multiple launch platforms. We are tracking you via your emissions. State your intentions. No shouting, no threats, just data. But the implication is clear. Dozens of vertical launch cells below are within theoretical range. The saturation net is already calculated. The Tu-160 crews now understand something uncomfortable. They are not probing NATO's reaction time. They are inside NATO's solution set. Then comes the final escalation. At 9:30, the White Swans begin opening their internal weapons bays. In strategic aviation, an open bomb bay during a confrontation is not theater. It is a signal. Inside those bays could be Kh-101 cruise missiles, long-range precision weapons capable of striking targets hundreds of miles away. NATO planners have seconds to interpret intent. But instead of reaching for triggers, the response shifts domains. One Fuwabaya 15EX executes a high-speed cross maneuver in close proximity to the lead bomber. Not a collision course, but close enough. So at Mach 2, wake turbulence becomes a weapon. The shock and disturbed airflow buffet the massive bomber, inducing oscillation. The Tu-160, designed for high-speed cruise, suddenly rides an artificial hurricane. Simultaneously, electronic warfare intensifies. Rather than attempting to hack or physically jam mechanical components in science fiction fashion, the response targets communications and command links, disrupting, saturating, overwhelming specific frequencies. Data links flicker, signals distort. The environment becomes electrically hostile. Inside the Russian cockpit, warning lights multiply. Aerodynamic stress demands attention. Electronic noise complicates coordination. The open bays, once a gesture of dominance, now expose vulnerability. Seconds stretch. Calculations race. No missiles are fired. Instead, the two 160 crews reverse course. Weapons bays close. Afterburners throttle back. The formation turns gradually toward Murmansk. The Arctic returns to silence. But this was never about a dogfight. This encounter demonstrates a transformation in deterrence philosophy. The Cold War model prized speed, altitude, and payload. Today's battle space prioritizes integration, data fusion, and cross-domain dominance. The Tu-160 remains one of the largest and fastest bombers ever built, a symbol of Soviet engineering ambition. Yet in a sensor-saturated Arctic, raw speed cannot outrun networked awareness. The United States and its NATO partners did not win by chasing. They won by seeing first, integrating faster, and controlling escalation without crossing the kinetic threshold. The MiG-31 radar painting was meant to intimidate. Instead, and it fed passive sensors. The transponder shutdown was meant to create uncertainty. Instead, it triggered space-based tracking. The bomb bay opening was meant to project power. Instead, it accelerated countermeasures. This is the new geometry of power projection. You are never alone in the sky. The Arctic is rapidly evolving into one of the most strategically dense regions on Earth. Melting sea routes, undersea cables, ballistic missile corridors, and forward operating air bases converge in a region once considered remote. What used to be buffer space is now contested infrastructure. For Moscow, sending two 160s north is both symbolic and operational. It reinforces claims of Arctic primacy and demonstrates long-range strike capacity. For NATO, the response had to be firm but measured. Overreaction risks escalation. An underreaction invites further probes. So, the answer was precision dominance. No missiles launched. No debris falling into icy water. Just a demonstration that every aggressive move is already mapped into someone else's algorithm. The larger lesson is sobering. In modern air combat, invisibility is no longer just about radar cross-section. It is about emissions discipline, network integration, and who controls the data environment. The side that speaks the loudest electronically may also reveal the most. When the two 160s banked homeward, they carried more than unspent fuel. They carried new information about NATO's response architecture. And NATO carried confirmation that its layered sensor web, from F-35 passive detection to Aegis fusion to orbital infrared tracking, works as intended. The Arctic chessboard remains active. On neither side fired. Neither side blinked. But the balance was tested, and the message was unmistakable. Speed without silence is exposure. Power without integration is vulnerability. The sky over the Barents Sea may look empty again tomorrow, but every ripple, every contrail, every flicker of radar energy will be logged, cross-referenced, and analyzed. Because in 2026, dominance is not declared by who flies fastest. It is decided by who already solved the equation. If this deep dive sharpened your understanding of how modern deterrence actually unfolds above the headlines, make sure to support the channel, subscribe for more strategic breakdowns, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next high-stakes analysis.